Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Paul Harris and I am president of the City Club's Board of Directors. I am pleased to introduce today's speaker, Michael Roizen, MD, Chair of the Wellness Institute of the Cleveland Clinic. As stated at its website, the clinic's Wellness Institute is, quote, responsible for implementing wide-ranging wellness programs that aggressively advocate healthy living and remove possible barriers to this end, end quote. After graduating Phi Beta Kappa from Williams College, Dr. Roizen attended the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine, where he graduated Alpha Omega Alpha. He completed his residency in internal medicine at Harvard's Beth Israel Hospital and also completed public health service at the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Roizen has served as chair of a Food and Drug Administration Advisory Committee and is editor for 6 medical journals. He has been a prolific, and I have to emphasize prolific, in fact there's so many numbers I decided to take them out of this introduction, publisher of peer-reviewed scientific papers, textbook chapters, editorials, and medical books, including a medical bestseller. He has received 13 U.S. and numerous foreign patents. Dr. Roizen is a co-founder of the website realage.com and chairs its scientific advisory board. He has a real age that I think is substantially less than his calendar age, and he really has helped revolutionize the way that people think about caring for themselves. Before joining the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Roizen served on the faculty at the University of California, San Francisco, as chair of the Department of Anesthesia and Critical Care at the University of Chicago, as dean of the School of Medicine and vice president for biomedical sciences at SUNY Upstate, and as chief executive officer of the Biotechnology Research Corporation of Central New York. He then accepted a position as chair of the Anesthesiology Institute at the Cleveland Clinic in 2007, and in 2007 was named the clinic's chief wellness officer. Dr. Roizen is also a prolific writer and co-writer of general audience books, as well as medical books. His first such book, Real Age, Are You As Young As You Can Be, was a #1 New York Times bestseller and received the Books for a Better Life Best Wellness Book Award in 1999. Real Age has been translated into over 20 languages, held a #1 position in 4 countries besides the United States, and actually displaced Harry Potter for 7 days as #1 on Amazon. He has written numerous other books that have also attained New York Times bestseller status. Dr. Roizen has given over 1,400 lectures to medical groups and has frequently appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show, Today Show, CBN, CNN, CBS, Good Morning America, Canada AM, The Montel Williams Show, and Larry King Live, as well as several PBS special fundraisers. He is a frequent columnist for newspapers and other publications and has been featured in at least 11 prominent magazines. I am pleased and honored to present on behalf of the City Club of Cleveland, Michael Roizen, MD, Chair of the Wellness Institute of the Cleveland Clinic, who will begin his PowerPoint presentation momentarily.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and not wander too much because I try and wander, but I realize the lights are much better here and it is on TV. Thank you for coming. It is about what the Cleveland Clinic has done for wellness and why that's important and why it's important for society and for you.
Today, we're tackling meat. Rocco's a meat-loving cowboy, and I'm about to ask him to give up meat and animal products for 28 days.
I'm 53 years old, and actually wondering how long I'm going to make it.
The best way for us to do this is take it to the truth tube. Your blood sugar was 172. You're not borderline anything. You're just a diabetic. Your waist size, 49 inches. And your weight, 265 pounds. When I saw these figures, I was very alarmed. And when I'm scared, the patient needs to be scared too. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
That's plaque inside your arteries. You are in the 97th percentile, which means almost no one has more plaque than you. In fact, you have the heart of an 85-year-old.
Is it reversible?
Yes.
Okay.
We need to get serious about this. When I found out Rocco's health was so critical, I knew I had to send in the one man who would get him on the right track. He's a brilliant doctor, an exceptional motivator, and my best friend. Take a look.
I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, and here at the Dr. Oz Show, I'm known as the Enforcer.
Hello, it's Rocco.
Rocco, this is young Dr. Mike. Of all the people I've talked to, the one that concerns me most is our meat-loving cowboy, Rocco. So I'm going to Arizona myself to see how he's doing.
Dr. Mike.
How are you?
How are you?
Good, you look good, man.
Oh, my God.
Oh, look at this. It's pretty good.
I got a lot of peaches and apples, cucumbers, leafy green vegetables.
This is great.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the freezer.
You know, there's no meat in here. I don't see any. Are you keeping up with your steps?
Yes, right now it was 10,000 the first month, and now I'm going to start doing 12,000. Keep my pedometer with me. 4,500, and it's only 20 after 12. But yeah, everything feels different, and it's taken a huge weight off me personally. I didn't realize what effect mentally looking like that was doing to me. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Can you come out next month? Because I'm afraid if I lose you, I'm going to mess up.
You won me for life.
Okay,
You know, you
good.
got my email for life.
Oh, my. So, it's been 28 days. I got to say, everywhere I go, people stop me and they ask me about Rocco. I can't wait any longer. I'm going to see what he looks like. Rocco, come on. I got to say, Rocco, it's impressive. When you left here, I really was very, very concerned. As you went back to the airport and took that long flight back home, what was going through your mind?
That was brutal. I went crazy in the airport because as soon as I left, the pressure was off. I did the TV show. I got 28 days. The first test, I passed by one fast food restaurant. I passed by fettuccine Alfredo. I passed by bacon and smells. And I decided right there and there. I was only a half hour away from here. And I said, am I going to live or am I going to die? Am I going to spend time with my grandchildren? Am I not? And I got a bag of nuts and a container of juice. And that was the first time in my life I did that.
I'm proud of you. It's the first step. What is it about Dr. Roizen, the enforcer, that sort of got you over there? I'm asking this question not just for you, because I know there are going to be as many people as before that show going to call me now and say, I want to do what Rocco's doing. What clicked for you?
The knowledge that he had and the way he came across. I have never had a grown man push me around a little bit. And I push people around a little bit. But in other words, it wasn't that he was doing it because I was a subject or I was a patient. He did it for me because he knows a way of life that I needed. And that's the way he sold it to me. And it was through his care and his love and his consistency. And again, it wasn't anything I couldn't do myself. Sure. But the fact that there were other people in it with me. I have an eating disorder. You know, there's no fat guys, nobody's out to save fat guys. But I have an eating disorder. It's a problem. I learned it. It's taken years to create it. And I have to stay away from the things that created it. No different than drinking. Yeah. No different than if I were addicted to drugs or I had an addiction to some behavior. Right. I have to change the behavior.
You want to see if it worked, everybody? Yeah. Rocco, you want to know?
No, I'm going that
way. So come on up. Dr. Roizen wants to check your waist size for us. Okay. You've been there before.
Yeah.
So you know the truth tube rules. All right, Mike, check his waist size.
Hold it right there.
Good.
Now, Rocco, we want you to suck in.
You get the camera here, guys.
Because you're going to anyway.
I don't want anybody saying it's not real.
43. Fantastic.
When you came on the first time, I was crystal clear on the fact that I didn't care about your weight as much as I cared about what was happening inside of you.
That's correct.
Right. So the first number we talked about was your glucose, your blood sugar. Because diabetes is a big deal to me. It's like pieces of glass shards scraping at your insides. You don't want that happening and not knowing about it. So you were a diabetic. Let's see what your number is now. Your glucose on your test we did is 99.
So in 28 days, Rocco cured his diabetes, got rid of his hypertension, started to pull plaque out of his arteries. That's doable for anyone. And why is it important? Well, it was brought home to me why it's important way back in 1970. We had an epidemiology course in clinical practice, if you will, and we had spent America 5.2% of gross domestic product on medical care in 1960, and it was rising to 7.2% in 1970. And the professor said, if this keeps on at this rate, by the year 2000, we'll be spending 12% of GDP on medical care. We'll be staying at least twice as expensive as Europe and 3 times of Asia, and we will lose our manufacturing base. And of course, we beat that. We spent roughly 12% in 1990, and we did lose our manufacturing base. That's why we're in wellness at the Cleveland Clinic, because we won't have the same society that we have it now. We won't have the freedom to be at the City Club of Cleveland if we don't do something about it. So I'm going to make 3 points today, and you can leave right now after these points are made, but I'm going to make them as solidly as I can. We're at a turning point. We will lose more than manufacturing. We'll lose service. We will lose everything that we know of because we are twice as expensive as Europe, 3 times of Asia, and that gap, the absolute percentage, is at a point where we won't be able to keep jobs here. But it is reversible, both for you and for society, just like it was for Rocco. Secondly, 4 factors determine 75% of our deficit. 1.3 trillion we would not have to spend, or 1.4 trillion, if we controlled those 4 factors. They're your lifestyle choices. They're our lifestyle choices. And if we don't do it, we won't have that freedom. And what Oprah taught us, being on her show, was that people don't make decisions based on fact. They make decisions based on emotion. And the second reason they make decisions is because they can't do anything else because of the environment. We have to change the environment if we're going to compete in the world for jobs. Most people think they hit their peak quality of life between 25 and 30, and it's all downhill after that. And it is. If you do nothing about it, you hit your peak quality then, and you decline. And the best study, my favorite study in the whole world's literature is this study of Harvard physicians. Started in 1952, it's still going on, and you see what happens to their IQ over time. As they get older, their IQ goes down, and it's not a trivial decrease in IQ. In fact, the physician tells you who you should choose for your physician, right? And the IQ declines about 5% every 10 years. But if you look at the range, you'll see some people stay at the top. In fact, that's the key. How do you become one of those 25% of people who doesn't lose IQ points as they age? What we really learned is that the graph of quality of life, or health as you age, is not one, that heavy red line, but is a family of curves. Before you're 35, it's your genes that take you. But from 35 on, it's your choices. And you can live at the top, just like Rocco could reverse and live at the top, just as easily. It just isn't that tough. Now, Dr. Esselstyn started this, believe it or not, at the clinic in 1978, when he showed this was a patient who had severe coronary artery disease. That white area is where blood flows in the heart. That's the main artery of the heart. And that raddiness or raggedness down towards the bottom is severe coronary artery disease. It's 98+% lesions. but he had no normal arteries to graft to. He was turned down for bypass and stents because he didn't have a normal artery. In order to do a graft, you got to have a normal artery. So he said to Dr. Esselstyn, what am I to do, die? And Dr. Esselstyn said, no, you can change your diet, you can walk 30 minutes a day, you can do meditation, and this is what happened. 2.5 years later, that looks like a normal coronary artery. No surgery involved, nothing other than lifestyle changes. The reversal that Rocco got, the reversal that this person got, is not impossible. It's very easy, matter of fact. And if we don't do it, our freedom will be impossible. We are at a turning point, but it is reversible for those gentlemen and for everyone here. Why? Because all genes do is make proteins or watch other genes. And which of your genes are on or not are your choices. This is probably the most important slide I can show, and this is 52 men with prostate cancer. We could have shown you 480 women with breast cancer. It's the same curve. These are strips of their genes, what are called gene arrays. So there are 52 guys here, and then right at the middle, there's a, if you will, break point where they did an intervention, and there are 52 people on the right side as well. You notice in the bottom left quadrant, those are red. Those genes are on. After the intervention, those same 52 men have green genes here. What happened? Those are turned off. What was the intervention? The intervention was they avoided 5 foods, they walked 30 minutes a day, and they did meditation 15 minutes morning and night. And yes, the 3 people who smoked gave that up. And what are these 5 genes here in the bottom that they turned off? Those are the RAS family of genes that promote the growth of colon, breast, and prostate cancer. So they turned off those genes that promote the growth by just a lifestyle change. And guess what? Up here at top where these are green and turn red, what are those? These 2 genes are the Gstm1 genes, protein-producing genes, that produce the Gstm1 protein that causes breast, colon, and prostate cancer cells to commit suicide. So you get these 52 guys with prostate cancer got to turn off the genes that promote it and turn on the genes that promote its death. This is a scary thing for guys. This is a groin shot. So this is a picture just of your prostate gland. This whole picture is that walnut-sized prostate, and that's a tumor. And here it is 1 year later, smaller with the PSA. All they did, 5 foods, walking, and meditation, plus the 3 guys who smoked quit. And that's the key. There are only 4 big things that cause our problems, and that's what they did, and they're that easy. They avoided saturated fat, trans fat, simple sugars, simple carbohydrates. That's any grain but 100% whole grain is a simple carbohydrate, and added syrups. Why are those important? Well, it's because food is not let's make a deal. If you have an ice cream cone tonight, the sugar from that cone affects your proteins for the length of life of that protein. So how long will the joy of the ice cream cone last? Maybe 15 or 30 minutes. How long will the pain that it does? Between 90 and 180 days for many proteins. It way outlasts it. Let me show it to you this way. If you stop right here, these things here with the dark purple nucleus are cells. And the cells lining your arteries have to be stuck next to each other tightly. Why? Because you need to keep blood inside the blood vessel. So they got to be stuck. What keeps them stuck is a protein, phosphokinase 3, no test involved. But in fact, what happens when sugar gets on that protein? It weakens it. And when it's weakened, then you get a rift or a tear between those cells. But your body won't allow that. Why? Because it's got to keep blood inside the blood vessel. So you repair it immediately. What do you repair it with? You repair it with LDL, or the lousy cholesterol. That's how plaque starts. Sugar gets on that protein, weakens the junction, blood pressure comes down, pounds against it, and you get that tear. Then what happens? Well, after you get the tear, over years there gets inflammation behind it. What causes the inflammation? That's saturated fat. And then over time, boom, it ruptures, and then you get the platelets accumulate on it. They attract a lattice network of clotting factors, and those red things are stopped, red cells. And that's a heart attack or stroke or memory loss or impotence or decay in orgasm quality or wrinkle of the skin. By the way, impotence and a wrinkle of the skin are no different than a heart attack or stroke. It's just where it occurs. The key point is what started it. It was the food choice. Because what level of blood sugar affects your artery staying, your two cells staying next to each other? For the brain and kidney, it's a level of 250. You don't get a blood sugar of 250 from just eating unless you're a diabetic. But for the heart and gonads, it's a level of 110. And every one of us can get there if you have a sugared cola. Moderation in food doesn't work, because what would it take? It's 2 ounces of sugared cola gets you above 110. When's the last time you saw someone buy a 20-ounce cola and only have 2 ounces of it? Even the kids over there probably don't have that little, right? We can't do moderation because we don't in America. So you have to avoid saturated fat because that causes the inflammation. How long does it change the way those genes function? Between 3 and 21 days. The ice cream cone pleasure doesn't last any place near that long. Sugar, non-100% whole grains, and added syrups affect it for longer than that. But that's all you have to do is avoid those, and anyone can do that. And you avoid the major instigator of atherosclerosis. And the good news is it's the same thing that instigates cancer, so we can prevent that in a lot of cases. Can we teach this? Yeah, we have a class at the Cleveland Clinic that runs for a year, but it's 18 sessions, 4-hour sessions, and after people go through it, not everyone gets reversal, but 60% of people with hypertension or diabetic management drugs or cholesterol management drugs are able to get off of those in 6 months. So it is teachable for large segments of society. Why did the Cleveland Clinic say it has to get involved in wellness? Well, we now are roughly 17.9% in 2009 of GDP was spent on health care. And we're going to go, if you include obesity, to 24% in under 7 years. We are twice as expensive as Europe and 3 times as expensive as Asia. We will not have jobs in America the way we know it now if we end up with that big a differential. It just won't occur. Why are we twice as expensive as Europe and 3 times of Asia? Because we have twice the chronic disease of Europe and 3 times of Asia. 80% more hypertension, 110% more heart disease, 40% more type 2 diabetes, 800% more stroke. We are more expensive not because the procedures are more or because our care is more expensive, but we have more procedures and we have more disease. Even if you look at hard diagnoses between 55 and 65 years old, equal number of men and women, cancer in Europe 5.5%, in America 12.2%. Arthritis 21.3%, America 53%. We are twice as expensive because we have twice the chronic disease. The great news is 4 factors cause 75% of that. 4 factors are responsible for $1.3 to $1.4 billion worth of spending that we could eliminate if we eliminated those 4 factors. Tobacco, food choices and portion size, physical inactivity, and stress. They're totally controllable. In 2007, those were responsible for 81% of hospital admissions, 91% of all prescriptions, 76% of physician visits. Those 4 factors and an incremental cost of over $6,000. We get to eliminate them if we want to. And the problem with the new health care law is it doesn't bend the curve down the way we intended or the way it was intended. it raises it to 28%. It means that we as a society won't exist this way. But we can change it because those 4 factors are totally under our control. 75% of the costs are caused by things that we can totally control. And that's why the Cleveland Clinic said, not only do we have to be great at illness care, which we always will be, and research and education, but we have to add wellness as the 4th pillar if we're going to lead in America. And we said we've got to demonstrate that we can do it at our institution, drive our costs down so that we can drive them down in Northeast Ohio, so that we can teach other companies to drive them down in Northeast Ohio, so Northeast Ohio can be competitive for jobs. And that's what we said is why we had to be involved in it. So about 6 years ago, we started a new approach. We said, let's judge our success by are we able to drive costs down, and let's focus on the 4 biggies: tobacco, physical inactivity, food choices and portion size, and stress or employee engagement. First thing we said is let's tackle tobacco. It's the one that everybody knows is bad. It's one of the toxins. It is, in fact, the biggest toxin. So we said we're going to make a commitment. When we buy a new podium, it can't off-gas formaldehyde. We buy a new wall cover or floor covering, it's got to be ground up, able to be ground up so you can eat it. That's how safe it should be for employees, patients, and the community. I wouldn't grind them up, but it has to be that safe. Why did we go to tobacco first? Well, the economic impact is the greatest. If the health care law, in those smoke-filled rooms in Congress and the president, if they had gotten together and said, let's say we ban tobacco in the United States and take all the money and give vouchers, all the money greater than tax receipts, and give vouchers to everybody in America with uninsurance, you'd be done. We'd have $100 billion spent on health insurance extra. We'd cover all the uninsured. We'd have no pre-existing condition exclusion, and we'd have money left over. But those smoke-filled rooms didn't do it. But we were coming down in tobacco use in America. But the problem was, the prediction was 2007 would be the lowest year of tobacco use in America. Why? Because the governors have taken 99.7% of the tobacco settlement funds and used it for other things. In Ohio, it's 100% and used for other things. And so that was the prediction, and in fact, it exactly occurred. The United States started increasing tobacco use in 2008, and you'll see the preliminary data for 2009 shows a continued increase because there's nothing opposing big tobacco now. But we said, let's show that we can do it on our campus and maybe in our community. So we banned smoking on our campus. If you smoke in a car that's in one of our parking lots, you're on our campus, you get a pink slip. First pink slip is a warning for employees. Second, you're terminated. No ifs, ands, and buts. And that's how it worked. And it did change things. And we then stopped hiring smokers. It is that big a toxin if you smoke nearby. What happened? Well, the green line is the United States. As you can see, it started turning up. We got down to 18.8% in the United States in the year 2007. We've gone up 2 years in a row now. We're at 20.3%. In Ohio, we've bounced around, but the impressive thing is the red line, which is our county, Cuyahoga County. We were one of the highest in the state at 26.5%. We are now at 15%, one of the lowest east of the Mississippi. This is really the Cosgrove effect, because he not only said, we're going to stop it on the campuses of the Cleveland Clinic, all 46 campuses have the same rules, but he said, we in fact are going to provide smoking cessation free to anyone in the county who doesn't have insurance that covers it. And we did that for 6 months. And you see what happened? It's steadily down. In fact, Ohio would be going way up, except for our county is dragging the number down. What does that mean to our businesses? It's about $200 million right now, just the difference between the average in Ohio and where we are per year saved in medical costs that is returned to our companies to employ people because of that. The economic impact for us at the clinic, we will reduce our smoking rate from about 15.4% to by 2017, 2.1%. That'll save us $36 million in health insurance costs for the quitters, but it'll also save us $114 million by not hiring smokers. And believe it or not, the secondhand smoke benefits will be greater in savings. We just can't quantify them. We also went to food. We said we've got to make it so that it's easy to get healthy food. Now, we serve to our patients an average of 55 to 60 items at every meal. So there's a peanut-free diet and a gluten-free diet and a diabetic diet and a regular, etc. By the time you add them up, they weren't not only, I can say double negative, they were not great tasting. Most people don't honor hospital food. But in addition, they were unhealthy. We have changed roughly 30 of the 55 now at each meal to be absolutely healthy. And by the end of April next year, all of them will be changed. We did that with our vending machines. We made them fit the criteria which we call GO, which is a criteria where they have nothing in them that will harm your body. And the cafeteria and vendors are also living that, and we changed with store labels and farmers markets. Why? Well, I'm going to watch you at the color, and the color is not a political chart, but is obesity rates in America. As you can see, in 1990, no state had more than 15% obesity. We were, as a nation, 6.9%. Just watch the color change. We have now got, in 2007 or 2008, we're 27.9% obese. We've quadrupled obesity rates in 18 years. That's the problem for our medical costs. And the real problem, as you can see, and thank Phil Schauer for this slide, is these is the medical, if you will, the percent that is obese in each country. And you can see not only is United States leading, but the slope of our curve is greater. We're getting more obese. Yeah, we've exported it to Brazil and Canada and Australia, but that differential and that cost differential is increasing. That makes us less competitive for jobs. And the primary concern isn't appearance, it is health costs and health. If you look here, this is the synopsis of obesity, and you can see with a different color, we've gotten much more obese as a country. But here is diabetes in the bottom curve. It has a lag of about 17 years from obesity to diabetes, 25 years to heart disease, 35 years to cancer. But here you see the South got obese first, and the South is getting, if you will, type 2 diabetes first. That lead, or that predictability, is the problem with health care. And so you're, in fact, behaviors are governed by the environment, culture, as well as emotion. We said we've got to make it easy for our employees, our communities, to choose healthy and hard to choose unhealthy things. So we took trans fat out about 5.5 years ago. Even McDonald's played at the Cleveland Clinic. We then labeled food with GO to where it is absolutely healthy. We changed all the vending machines. Sales went down 60% in the first month after we changed them. Their sales are still down about 30%. Spin it, and we're not unhappy about that. We started labeling foods with calories. We took out all the fryers. Can you buy fried food at the Cleveland Clinic? Well, it's fried in parentheses because it's all baked. You can't. We have 46 fryers for sale. All the sugar is out of the soft drink machines. Why? There is no redeeming value. There is no health value. We are not a nation deprived of calories anymore. That's the only value of sugared soft drinks, if you're really deprived of calories. We don't need that in America anymore. We put the labels on foods at Heinen's and other stores because you should be able, our employees should be able to select food that is absolutely healthy without having to read the label. You shouldn't have to spend a ton of time in the grocery store. So there are 2 peanut butters out of the 16 at Heinen's. These 2 Smuckers are absolutely healthy. It should be easy to find it, right? They got nothing added to them that is nasty or nasty for your body, and you can find them by looking at the label. And Bueller's is also doing it. And we've got the criteria at our website, 360-5.com, which is the Cleveland Clinic Wellness website. We said we've got to make physical activity easy for our employees too. So we made Curves membership and fitness center membership free. And from a stress standpoint, any time 5 Cleveland Clinic employees will get together at a consistent time, we have a yoga class. And so we provide 57 to 59 yoga instructors a day, every day. What happened? Our fitness center usage. It doesn't cost us one more penny of subsidy for our fitness centers, but our usage, the number of hours people are in them, quadrupled over this period of time since we made it free. From a weight management standpoint, we offer free Weight Watchers, free Curves, free Shape Up and Go, which is our own program, free fitness centers, free yoga, free farmers market, vending machines that have changed, Go Foods. And what's happened, our employees have now lost 188,000 pounds. If you look at that on the burden on society, that's probably a reduction of around $7 to $9 million in medical costs every year that we can then make medical care less expensive and make Northeast Ohio more competitive for jobs. We've now gone into a program, if you look at it, this is crazy, where in fact the benchmark for employees in the United States in disease management programs who need to be in disease management programs, the average is 12%. That is, if we take everybody in the country with type 2 diabetes, offer them all a disease management program for type 2 diabetes, how many will say yes? 12%. The high in the United States is around 15%. We were at 8%, but we said, let's use this healthcare reform bill that allows you to have a premium increase tied to whether you participate in wellness programs, up to 20% of the premium, and we did that. And what happened? We now have 45% of people who belong in disease management programs are in them. That's probably the best in the nation. But we've got to get to 100% if we as a nation are going to exist with the same freedoms we have now. And it's doable. We also do a lot of things in public health and research in the Wellness Institute, one of which is helping transform the schools. We don't have enough time for that now, but we can get to it in the question and answer period. I'm an academic, so I disclose my conflicts of interest. As you heard, I do write these books. I do earn royalties on them, so I hope you buy them. I also did start the Real Age website, which we sold 3 years ago to Hearst. It's an international problem. Veja is the international magazine that's in Brazil. It's read by roughly 80% of Brazilians every Sunday night, we're told. They're concerned, as you can see, with aging too. And their concern has penetrated the psyche better than ours. By the way, I've been on the cover of the magazine 5 times. If you're a guy, you can't find me. I'm way up here in the upper left. Where have we been? Well, health choices you make will determine if we can compete for jobs. Why? We are at a turning point. We now either, as the differential gets bigger, we now either are able to be much more competitive. We could be at 4% or 5% of GDP on health costs, not at 17%, if we grabbed hold of those 4 factors that determine 75% of our costs. And it's in our control. We think you've got to change the environment. We can't impose emotion on people, and facts don't do it. But we can change our environment. What we did with Rocco, what he did was change his home environment. And that's his work environment too, where he teaches cowboy riding. You've got to do that too. And for those of you who run companies, that's what it's all about, is changing your company and the environment in your company so it's easy to do healthy things and hard to do unhealthy things. Now, what should you know for yourself? Well, know you control what goes in your body, and yes, it is that important for your health. You can get a do-over, just like Rocco did, and just like Dr. Esselstyn's patient did. You should avoid known toxins, tobacco, BPA, where the largest source of BPA is actually in the thermally printed receipts you get at restaurants and fast food joints. And perk, you should air your dry cleaning outside before you bring it in your house. Avoid excess radiation in tests. People are concerned about the radiation at the TSA. That's 1/12,000th the radiation of one CT scan. People get CT scans all the time. The radiation there should be much more concerning. You should really avoid those if you can. Walk 10,000 steps a day. So I'd never go to bed without 10,000 on my pedometer. In fact, I have 2 pedometers, one here and one on my belt. If you're going to overpay for anything in life, overpay for a pedometer. People say they walk their dog. This is not walking your dog, okay? In fact, the average person who walks their dog, who tells us they walk their dog for an hour, gets 8 minutes of walking. You've got to do much more. Call a buddy. None of us are good enough to do it without some help. So have a buddy. Manage stress daily. Most important thing for managing stress is that buddy. Friends, friends, and friends are number 1, 2, and 3. That's why we gather at wakes, etc. Have a purpose in life. It's spelled wrong. There are 2 spelling errors that we have in here. I do this for medical students, and I forgot to take them out for you because I normally reward the medical students who find the errors with a book. So someone gets a book. Have a purpose in life, meditation, and, in fact, refocusing or physical activity are things that we can teach easily, and we can do that in the question-answer period, in fact. Avoid those 5 foods I talked to you about: saturated fat, 4-legged animal, 2-legged animal skin, palm and coconut oil, trans fats, that's partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, added sugars, added syrups, and any grain but 100% whole grain. Take 5 pills. What are the 5 pills? DHA is the active ingredient in fish oil. Unfortunately, the farming of fish in the United States has changed so much that the only fish in the United States with predictable fish oils in them is salmon and trout. So, in fact, that's why we say take DHA in a pill form. Vitamin D3, 1,000 international units. You heard the IOM report probably this week, in fact, say, too much vitamin D. They're talking about 5,000 or 10,000 international units. You should get, whether it's from sun or from supplements, 1,000 international units a day. Calcium, 600 milligrams, and magnesium, 400 milligrams, half of a multi twice a day. Why half twice a day? Because your level, it gets too high if you have it once a day, and you urinate it out if you only have it once a day. So you need to buy a pill splitter. They're about 62 cents. Split it up and have half in the morning and half in the evening. And then talk to your physician about having 2 baby aspirin with a glass of water every day if you're over 40. Next thing is sleep, 6.5 to 8 hours a day. Sleep is probably the most underrated thing in America. And lift weights. There is no way I can tell you to do it other than you got to lift weights, whether it is your body as your weight or something else. Resistance exercise is absolutely key for keeping healthy. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be here, because the last thing is to love something and do it every day. I love trying to get people to do healthier things, so thank you for letting me do that.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a Friday forum featuring Dr. Michael Roizen, Chair of the Wellness Institute of the Cleveland Clinic. We'll return to him in a moment for our traditional City Club questions. Please start formulating your questions now. Members and guests alike are welcome to attend City Club forums, and we certainly hope that everyone listening will join the City Club and become active in our ongoing civic dialogue. Please visit our website, that's cityclub.org, to see a full schedule of our upcoming programs. We are very pleased today to have sponsorship support from Medical Mutual, and today at the head table are Sue Tyler, Executive Vice President, and Paula Sauer, Vice President, Care Management. Will you please stand and be recognized? Thank you very much. Today is also the annual forum on the power of ideas, made possible by the 1,474 celebrants at the City Club's 75th anniversary banquet. As you may know, the City Club is approaching 100 years in just 2 years. We are very pleased today to welcome guests at tables hosted by Baker & Hostetler, Boswick Design Partnership, the Council for Economic Opportunities in Greater Cleveland, Medical Mutual of Ohio, and Orlando Baking Company. Thank you all for joining us today. We're also very pleased to host students at our forum who are here as part of our City Club student program. Participation of these students is made possible by a generous grant from the Fred E. Scholl Foundation, Bernard L. Carr, Chairman. With us today are students from the Canton Local Schools, St. John and Paul High School, Carl F. Schuler High School, and the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. Will the students please stand and be recognized? Now we're ready for questions. Holding the microphones today are City Club Development Director Cheryl Helden and City Club Program Director Carrie Miller. First question, please.
Dr. Roizen, thank you so much for that great speech. I think that the pastry plates would have been more full if we would have waited till after your speech. But that being said, thank you. You know, Dr. Roizen, so much of what you talked about in this audience are people who are clearly educated, and I'm guessing of an income that is people who can enjoy what you have to say. Of all the books that you've done and what you're working on, is there any chance that you would consider doing something called City and You? Being that we know that right now in Huff, people die 24 years sooner than Lyndhurst, and more than half of that is attributable to diet. You are awesome and scary, and I can't wait for your answer.
There are two things relating to that. One is both American Edwards and Parker Hannafin have given grants to us to have residents who can't afford it go through Lifestyle 180. So we have those, and those are, in fact, currently available. The second thing is a lot of us do things with the schools. The Cleveland Clinic aims to transform. There are 508 schools in and around Cleveland, and we are working. We have done 2 so far. We hope to have permission to do all 508 within 5 years. So we are doing that. Now, from a personal standpoint, from a book writing standpoint, Mehmet and I are now in the final stages. We've written all the chapters. It's reviewing it of a You Teen book. We actually don't have a title. Our current You, the Owner's Manual book, one of our first published, is now used by 650 schools. But the You Teen, we have foundations that have committed to giving it to all the schools, and we are doing it royalty-free. It'll be paperback with a handout for teacher education. So we expect that to be out by June, and we hope to get it into all the schools. In fact, with no cost to the schools and with an easy program to teach what you have to do with those major 4 factors and what you have to do, and we didn't go into resiliency, et cetera, but what you have to do in those spheres as well to be, in fact, the healthiest. So we truly believe what your statement is. We are a society, and our costs are all of us.
Dr. Rosen?
Yes.
Nice to see you today.
Privilege.
When I go shopping, I look at the labels, and I try and find the one with the lowest salt, lowest sugar. What's the recommended? Is salt too high in our diet? What are we looking for? And also, what other diseases can you identify that are being helped by this diet other than diabetes and hypertension?
Let me go and answer the second part first, and then I'll come back to sodium and sugar and salt. Our diet is responsible for 75%, whether it is arthritis or prostate cancer, as I showed you, or breast cancer or colon cancer. It is responsible for a large swath of everything from heart disease through stroke and memory loss, etc. So it is responsible for a large phase. And the problem is that the food corporations have gotten far ahead of us in science. And they know that sugar, saturated fat, and salt together are as addictive as tobacco or heroin. And they have addicted us to the drugs. That's their job, if you will. It's our job. The only way you can fight those drugs, if you will, is by changing the environment so you don't have those as easily available. So salt is important from that standpoint of helping addict you to the others. Now, Mehmet Oz and I and Mike Jacobson, who was here earlier in the year, have a debate. because sodium really doesn't affect people to a large degree without hypertension. That's what we used to think. There's some preliminary evidence that high sodium, even without hypertension, leads to arterial disease. So we're in a little limbo. We don't have enough data to say that sodium above 2 grams a day is really horrible. It's not as horrible as sugar, we know that. But is it horrible for all the people without hypertension? We aren't clear on that. So unfortunately, Mike Jacobson feels very strongly, the head of Consumer Science and the Public Interest, feels very strongly that it is a horrible thing. Mehmet is someplace in the middle. I'm on the side of show me more data.
Dr. Roizen, I think it's great what the Cleveland Clinic's doing for health and wellness within its own staff. And I remember probably 5 years ago, the previous CEO was here, and we asked him about that same question, and they weren't doing very much at that point. So it's great that the progress you've made. Beginning of this year, you had a little Cleveland area experiment with fitness and activity with memberships to Curves and YMCA's being free to people for 3 months. My wife's observation as a Curves member was that very few of those people continued that after that short experience. What was your analysis of that experiment, and what would you do differently, or what would you see as a way to improve that experience in the future?
I think we said, let's do it during the winter months so people will continue physical activity on their own in the months in Cleveland where it's good enough to do it outside. That was the goal of why we did it in the months that it was done in, because you can't do it easily outside in Cleveland in the winter months. Now, I realize some of the people from the metro parks may object to my statement, but it isn't as easily done. Our goal is to find a sustaining way, that is to find a way of, whether through the city or through CDC grants that we've applied for, to find some way of sustaining this for the whole Cleveland metro area. We believe that Cleveland can be the healthiest city, and not only can it be, I mean, we've taken a lead in tobacco. We are, in fact, way down below the lowest other county in the state. We believe we can do this with physical activity. We can do it with healthy food choices that aren't more expensive. When we've transformed the meals in the schools, to come back to that question, it doesn't cost 1 penny more, except you need a little salad or tray to carry the heavier food, if you will. But it doesn't cost 1 penny more in food choices, and they're all in the USDA budgetary allotment. So the point is, we think you can do it, and also teaching resiliency and stress. But we need help to make it sustaining. So we aren't, the clinic isn't, if you will, rich enough to do it on its own, but believes that through the community we can all do this.
Dr. Roizen, 2 questions. First, you made mention of a patient who had coronary artery disease that was completely or significantly reversed. Would you talk a little bit about Dr. Esselstyn's protocol, or what he did to reach that point? And the second question is, in this very complicated healthcare reform legislation, is there anything in it that legitimately addresses wellness?
2 very big questions, if you will, so I could take 30 minutes each. But let me go and first do the Esselstyn program is a plant-based diet without oil. So if you have significant 98% plus lesions, you need to do significantly tougher things than preventing it, like Rocco did. Rocco had lesions, but he didn't have the symptoms of the lesions yet. So just avoiding those 5 foods in Lifestyle 180, our program, and in the Ornish programs appears to be an appropriate way. Esselstyn program, a little more severe for people with more disease, but again, something that is doable, and Dr. Esselstyn teaches that at our Wellness Institute at Lyndhurst site. I think it's monthly, and anyone is welcome to attend that. It is a great program, so I don't want to diminish that. Second question is in healthcare reform. Well, healthcare reform did a lot of really good things, one of which was it increased coverage. 2 is, if you will, the no pre-existing conditions. it was though sold to us, at least initially, as bending the curve down. There is very little from a wellness standpoint that bends the curve down in that. There are a few things that if we get lucky might do that. But right now it requires us to get lucky. Now there's a lot more in there that require regulations be written around them that aren't spelled out in the, you'd think with a 1,200 or whatever it is page bill, you'd get a lot of stuff spelled out. So a lot of it is regulation. So recently they said on the medical loss ratio, which insurance companies are held to, a lot of wellness activities that coach to an endpoint are allowed in there. And IT to support that. But what about programs that offer, like ours, that offer fitness centers or yoga or stress management? Those are left vague. And no one, and even in the redo of the regulation, which came out last week on Monday, Secretary Sebelius wasn't clear. I mean, it was left intentionally vague, we think. So there's a lot that if we get lucky, we'll be able to bend the curve. But they missed that. And in the senators' late-night debates, there were 6 amendments left when, if you will, they went on break. One of those 6 would have really done it.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we have been listening to Dr. Michael Roizen, Chair of the Wellness Institute of the Cleveland Clinic. Thank you, Dr. Roizen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.